The 911 operator thought it was just another late-night disturbance call. But 30 minutes later, an entire neighborhood was surrounded by federal agents, the power grid was shut down, and one suburban house became the center of a mystery nobody could explain. And it all started with a whisper from inside a locked basement. "I think they replaced my family." Rain hammered against the windows of Daniel Harper's car as he drove home through the quiet streets of Cedar Grove, Ohio. It was 11:47 p.m. Daniel had just finished a double shift at the hospital where he worked as a night security supervisor. Every house was dark except one, his house. The upstairs lights flickered strangely. He parked slowly. Then he noticed the front door was slightly open. Rainwater dripped from the roof as Daniel stepped toward the porch. "Emily?" No answer. The house was silent, too silent. He pushed the door open. The television buzzed with static. Kitchen drawers were open. A glass lay shattered across the floor. "Emily? Mason?" Still nothing. Then, footsteps upstairs, slow, heavy. Daniel grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. "Who's there?" The footsteps stopped. Then came a voice. "Dad?" It was Mason. Daniel rushed upstairs. His son stood at the end of the hallway wearing pajamas, pale and trembling. "Mason, what happened?" Mason looked terrified. "Mom's downstairs." Daniel froze. "Downstairs where?" Mason slowly pointed toward the basement door and whispered, "She's been talking to someone down there for hours." The door was closed, but faintly. He could hear voices, two voices. One was Emily's, the other didn't sound human. It sounded distorted, like several people speaking at once. Daniel's stomach twisted. "Mason, go to your room and lock the door." Daniel stepped toward the basement. Every creak of the floor sounded louder than thunder. The voices below suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Daniel gripped the knife tightly and opened the basement door. Cold air rushed upward. The lights downstairs flickered dimly. "Emily?" No response. He walked down slowly. Then he saw her. Emily stood motionless in the center of the basement, facing the wall, her back toward him. "Emily, what the hell is going on?" Slowly, she turned around. Daniel's blood ran cold. Emily was crying, but she was smiling at the same time, and standing beside her was another woman, a woman who looked exactly like Emily. Same face, same hair, same clothes. Daniel stumbled backward. The second, Emily tilted her head unnaturally. Then, both women spoke together. "Daniel Harper, we've been waiting for you." Daniel ran upstairs instantly. He slammed the basement door shut and locked it. Mason screamed from upstairs. The lights exploded throughout the house. Glass shattered. The TV turned on by itself. Static filled the room. Then a voice came through the speakers. "Call 911." Daniel grabbed his phone with shaking hands and dialed immediately. 911, what's your emergency?" "My wife. There's two of her." Silence. The operator sounded confused. "Sir, are you in danger?" Then suddenly, the basement door began shaking violently. "Bang! Bang! Bang!" Mason screamed upstairs. The operator heard it. "Sir, officers are on the way. Stay calm." "They're trying to get out." Then came Emily's voice, soft, gentle. "Daniel!" His eyes widened. "Open the door!" Another voice joined hers, identical. "Please." Then a third voice. "Daniel?" A fourth, a fifth, dozens, all speaking together now. "Open the door!" The operator suddenly interrupted loudly. "Sir, leave the house right now!" "Sir, your address just triggered a federal alert." Daniel stared blankly. "What does that mean?" The operator whispered, "Oh my God!" Then the line disconnected. Every light inside the house went black. Daniel heard footsteps behind him, not downstairs, inside the kitchen. He slowly turned around and saw Emily standing there, smiling. But the basement door was still locked. Daniel grabbed Mason and ran toward the front door, but it slammed shut by itself. The locks clicked automatically. Then every television in the house turned on at once. A symbol appeared on every screen, a black circle with strange markings. Mason whispered, "In my dreams!" Then came the knock at the front door. 3 slow knocks. Black SUVs surrounded the street. Men in tactical gear aimed rifles at the house. One agent stepped forward and shouted through a megaphone, "This is the FBI! Step away from the windows!" But before Daniel could respond, every screen inside the house suddenly displayed the same message. "Too late! Ooh!" And upstairs, footsteps began moving toward them, slowly, one by one, as if multiple people were descending the stairs together, but nobody was visible, only the sound. The footsteps stopped halfway down the staircase. Then all the lights turned red, and a voice echoed through the house. "Daniel Harper, you should not have called them." Daniel's breathing became shallow as red emergency lights flooded the house. Outside, FBI agents surrounded the property with rifles raised. Inside, the staircase remained empty, but the footsteps continued. Step, step, Step. Like invisible people walking closer. Mason buried his face into Daniel's jacket. Daniel's mind raced. 2 Emilys, federal agents, that symbol, and now invisible footsteps inside his own house. Suddenly, boom! The front door exploded inward. FBI agents stormed inside. Get down! Red laser sights swept across the room. Daniel dropped to his knees, shielding Mason. An agent grabbed him aggressively. Where is she? What? Your wife! Daniel pointed upstairs with trembling hands. There's 2 of her! The agents exchanged terrified looks. That's when Daniel realized something horrifying. The FBI knew exactly what this was. Every electronic device inside the house shut off instantly. Radios, flashlights, phones. Darkness swallowed the room again. Then came the voice. Not from upstairs, not from the basement, from everywhere. You brought them here. One of the agents panicked and fired upstairs. Gunshots echoed violently. Then silence. A second later, the same agent suddenly screamed. His body lifted into the air. Daniel watched in horror as something invisible dragged the man up the staircase. Blood splattered across the ceiling. The upstairs hallway began changing. The walls moved unnaturally, stretching longer, twisting, like the house itself was alive. Emily appeared at the top of the staircase, except now there were 3 of her, all smiling, all staring silently downward. The 3 Emilys spoke together. Correct, we only borrowed her. The agents fired. Their bodies glitched, like corrupted video footage, then disappeared completely. Your house sits above something the government buried in 1987. There was an experiment here. The basement door burst open. Freezing cold air flooded the house, and from the darkness below came whispers, thousands of them. Daniel looked outside. Every FBI vehicle had stopped. Every agent outside stood completely frozen, like statues. Then, all at once, they slowly turned toward the house. One agent spoke in a distorted voice. Let us in! The front window shattered inward. The infected agents began walking toward the house unnaturally. Slow, jerking movements, like puppets. Hayes shoved Mason into an armored SUV. Go, go, go! The vehicle sped away from the neighborhood. Daniel looked back. The Harper house stood glowing red, and above it, something massive moved across the roof, too large to be human. In 1987, a research team discovered a signal buried underground. The signal could imitate human thoughts. It learned by listening. At first, it copied voices. Then it learned how to copy humans. Daniel felt sick. The Emilys! Copies. Suddenly, the driver shouted, We're being followed! Black SUVs appeared behind them. 3. No headlights. Moving fast, Daniel looked through the window and saw Agent Hayes sitting inside it, smiling directly at him. The fake Hayes mouthed 3 words silently through the glass. You can't escape! Then the pursuing SUV rammed them violently. The armored vehicle spun out of control. Mason screamed, metal crushed, glass exploded, everything went black. Daniel woke upside down. Smoke filled the wrecked SUV. Rainwater poured through shattered glass. Mason cried nearby. Dad? Daniel unbuckled himself painfully and crawled toward his son. You okay? I think so. The driver was dead. Agent Hayes was bleeding heavily from her forehead. Outside, the black SUVs were parked silently along the highway. Their doors slowly opened. People stepped out. Not agents anymore, copies. Dozens of them, all with blank smiles. Some looked like FBI officers. Some looked like random civilians. One looked exactly like Daniel. The copies stared at him through the broken windshield, then smiled. Daniel's entire body shook. Hayes forced herself upright. They spread faster than we thought. What do we do? Hayes grabbed a small black device from her jacket. There's only one way to stop it. The copies began walking toward them slowly through the rain. Daniel noticed something horrifying. More faces kept changing. One became Emily, another became Mason, another became him. The creature wasn't just copying people anymore. It was improving. Hayes looked at Daniel urgently. The original signal source is still beneath your house. What does that mean? If we destroy the source, the copies may collapse. May? We've never gotten this far before. The copies surrounded the wreck slowly, smiling silently, then all together. They began speaking in perfect synchronization. Daniel Harper, you opened the door! You invited us! Mason screamed. Daniel grabbed him tightly. Hayes activated the black device. What is that? EMP explosive! Daniel blinked. You're gonna bomb the house? Not the house. She looked terrified now. The tunnel underneath it. Daniel froze. There's a tunnel? Hayes nodded slowly. The government buried it decades ago. Thunder cracked overhead. The copies came closer. One of them suddenly transformed halfway. Its face glitched violently between multiple identities. Emily, Hayes, Daniel, strangers, children, Old people, as if it couldn't stabilize anymore. Then it screamed, a horrible, distorted sound that shook the air itself. More copies emerged from the woods nearby, hundreds now. Daniel realized the horrifying truth. It wasn't hunting them anymore, it was spreading, fast. Hayes looked at Daniel. "If this reaches a city..." She didn't finish the sentence. Daniel helped Mason out of the SUV. "How far to the house?" 2 miles. Rain poured endlessly as they ran through the dark forest beside the highway. Behind them, the copies followed silently. No running, just walking calmly. After 20 minutes, the Harper neighborhood came into view, but it no longer looked normal. Military vehicles blocked every road, helicopters circled overhead, the entire area was under lockdown, and at the center, Daniel's house glowed with strange red light. The ground beneath it pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Hayes whispered, "It's awake!" Suddenly, gunfire erupted nearby. Soldiers screamed. Daniel looked toward the street. The military wasn't fighting civilians anymore. They were fighting copies of themselves. Chaos spread everywhere. No one knew who was real anymore. A soldier shouted, "Don't trust anyone!" Then, another soldier who looked identical shot him in the head. Daniel felt pure terror. This wasn't an invasion, it was replacement. Hayes grabbed Daniel. "We go through the basement!" They rushed toward the house through smoke and chaos. Bodies covered the street. Inside the house, the walls pulsed unnaturally. Whispers echoed from every direction. Mason covered his ears, crying, "It's too loud!" Daniel heard it too now. Thousands of voices inside his head. Memories, thoughts, dreams. The thing underground was learning directly from them. The basement door stood open. Red light poured upward from below. Hayes handed Daniel the EMP device. "When I say run, you throw this as deep as possible." "What about you?" "I'll hold them off." "No!" Hayes gave a weak smile. "This started before you were born." She loaded her rifle. "It ends tonight." Ends. The whispers suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Then a voice echoed from the basement. Emily's voice. "Daniel!" He froze. The real Emily slowly walked up the basement stairs, crying, terrified. "Help me!" Daniel nearly broke down. "Emily!" She reached toward him, but Hayes aimed her rifle instantly. "Don't touch her!" Emily screamed. "Daniel, please!" Daniel looked between them desperately. "How do we know she's real?" Emily whispered softly. "Because I know what Mason said before his first baseball game." Daniel froze. Only Emily knew that. She looked into his eyes, crying. "He said, 'Dad looks more nervous than me.'" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. It was really her. He stepped forward. Then suddenly, Emily smiled unnaturally. Her face glitched violently, and Hayes fired. Bang! The fake Emily collapsed instantly. Daniel staggered backward, horrified. "No!" Hayes screamed. "Throw the device now!" The basement suddenly erupted with movement. Thousands of shadow-like figures crawled upward from below. Hayes tackled him and Mason behind the wall. 3 seconds. 2, 1. White light exploded beneath the house. A shockwave ripped through the neighborhood. Every light in Cedar Grove went dark instantly. Then, silence. Complete silence. The whispers were gone. The copies outside began collapsing motionless onto the streets, one by one. The red glow beneath the house faded slowly. Then the entire structure collapsed inward, violently. Swallowed into the earth. Gone. 3 months later, the government officially called it a gas explosion. Nobody believed that story. Cedar Grove remained abandoned. Military fences surrounded the entire area. Daniel and Mason moved to another state under federal protection. Agent Hayes was never seen again. Some believe she died in the collapse. Others think something escaped before the explosion. Daniel tried to move on, tried to forget. But one night, Mason walked into the kitchen silently and said something that froze Daniel's blood. "Dad!" Mason smiled strangely, then whispered, "They're still down there." If you enjoyed this FBI mystery horror story, subscribe now for more terrifying 911 call stories, dark thriller mysteries, and realistic suspense videos. Comment below what you think was really under the house.